how'd you get into hip hop?
I mean, it was what I talked about. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was the breakdancing and the culture of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Nah, Vlad, you wasn't out here breakdancing.
Absolutely. 100%.
On the cardboard?
On the cardboard.
Wow.
On the cardboard.
They got footage of that? What was your special move?
Cardboard equals no
Everybody had a special
move. I mean, I can head spin pretty good.
Still can though?
What's that?
Can you do it now?
Not a head spin, no. I mean, you know, I can centipede pretty good. I could do a crab. You know, my crab was
doing the crab?
I was doing the crab. I could never do the windmill. The windmill, the reason why I stopped was because I just could not get the windmill. And I felt like that was like the next
step.
And you just couldn't. I just couldn't, man. I practiced my ass off. I could not get the fucking windmill.
Turn your shoulders up.
You know, so I see these videos of Jadakiss doing the windmill. I'm like, fuck this, man. Fucking fuck you. I could never do that.
Now that would be a versus Vlad Jada. Hip hop dance off. Word. That would be crazy. Yeah, that would be crazy.
My money's still on Jada.
Yeah, Jada.
He gets
He gets to the windmill.
Yes.
He gets to the windmill.
Game over.
Yeah. So from the windmill,
yeah,
you decided to go into beat production?
Well, I mean, we're talking about elementary school, right? So all through junior high and high school and everything, I was just a fan. Like I would just buy anything I could buy. Like, you know, you got back then, you would just buy a record hoping it was dope because you couldn't. It wasn't on the radio, you know what I mean? Right. Especially in the Bay. You know, Video Music Box was a New York thing. There wasn't anything equivalent on the West Coast of that. You would just buy anything you could get your hands on. So like Egyptian Lover, you know, Johnson Crew, Soul Sonic Force, you know, Sugar Hill Gang, Nucleus, a lot of things that kind of were hot during the whole electro era. You know, Twilight 22, Electric Kingdom, like records like that were sort of the basis of hip hop. Those groups never really got big after that, but they had like that moment in time. And I was just a fan, and I was just listening to everything I could listen to. You know, I remember when NWA hit, that really was like just the level of quality and the rawness of it was just like so incredible to me that I got a little deeper into it, like in high school. And then, but you gotta think, I'm growing up in the Bay, I'm growing up in San Mateo, which is like the suburbs. Right. There are no rappers, there are no producers, there's no nobody. But then I go to college at UC Berkeley, and then boom, I'm in the East Bay. I'm meeting the Souls of Mischief and Dell on Telegraph Ave, chilling. Like I'm meeting other rappers that are really seriously doing, and that's when I started like producing and making beats and making demos and really kind of getting into it. But like a few years into it, I'm like, I'm never going to be DJ Premier. I'm never going to be whatever.
Why were you convinced that couldn't happen?
I just did not have the musical ability. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just certain, and you know, as you know, like when you meet, like over time when I interview like the Dallas Austins or the, you know, the Pete Rocks or the, you know, the Dark Childs, you know, the dudes who really have these massive catalogs and hits, you realize that there's just something in them musically that really was just always there. Right. You know what I mean? They just needed an outlet to get it out, and they were already doing it by 10, 12 years old. So I'm like, you know, I always had big dreams of what I was gonna do, and being a producer that would occasionally get a placement here and there wasn't my goal. And this one night, I remember I got in this new apartment and I had this house party, and I'd hired, you know, this DJ friend of mine to DJ, and he left the equipment in my house. You know, like 2 SB1200s, a mixer, and whatever else. And I'm like, let me just fuck around with this. Let me just jump on the turntable. And it was just like, just natural. It was just like, I remember I made my first mixtape live that night. First time I ever jumped on the turntables. I knew how to, because making beats for so long, you knew how stuff fit together. Right. And it was like, oh, simple, this is natural. Like, yo, this is so easy for me. You know what I mean? And then it was like, I got my own equipment. I did my first house party, and I'm like, oh yeah.
How was the first house party?
It was like nothing you've ever experienced. To DJ and see people spin, when you put that next record on, and you get that reaction, like, it was like nothing you've ever experienced. Right. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing now.
So you learned how to do the windmill. So you found your windmill.
I found my windmill.
I want to say, I appreciate this story right here because the impression that people have is you don't care about the culture,
Yeah.
you're pilfering the culture,
Right.
you have no knowledge of the culture.
Right.
So now all these songs from Egyptian that you mentioned, it's like all these people that's talking crazy about you, your knowledge most
Yeah,
likely.
I'm not gonna lie. He said a couple names. I
I was like,
oh.
so now it's very refreshing because it's like, oh, he's a white guy that's
brush up on
getting
my
money
hip-hop
off of us. But now you're giving a whole different context to what the dynamic is of Vlad TV.
Yeah, I mean, you can listen to my interviews when I interview like the legends, like the Raekwons or the Melly Mel's or whatever. Like, if you listen to the conversation, I'm not just reading from a script. Like, I've experienced these songs as they were coming out.
Right.
And you know, there's nothing, you could go back and listen to, you know, Michael Jackson Thriller, but it's different when you actually experienced it when it came out. Because there's feelings and emotions associated with it. You remember what was going on in your life, and then that was the soundtrack to your life.
Right.
And it's like, hip hop has been the soundtrack to my life, most of my life. And, you know, anyone who really digs into my catalog it's just obvious.
Right.
You know?
So from the DJing,
Yeah.
then what?
Well, so the DJing started, right? And I'm in the Bay, I'm living in Oakland, and I'm starting to do clubs, and you know, I'm getting into it, and it's like, but I'm looking around, and all the DJs I'm looking up to are all broke. They're all living with their moms. they're scraping by.
Like who?
No names that are big names, because they're all local.
You know I always gotta
there.
find out the names.
I don't even remember the names.
I have to
no,
find out,
on some
yeah.
real shit. I don't even remember the names.
Right.
Like, but it was dudes who I thought were fresh, who I really like looked up to, like, yo, and I watched them spin, and I would like take notes, like, okay, this song like works, and once I got to know them, I'm like, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
And
I know somebody who had a similar experience.
yeah, I'm like, this ain't gonna work. And I remember I was getting close to being dead broke by that time, and I'm like, all right, like, I could either go and get a regular 9-to-5 job, or I could move to New York and really, you know, try to hit a home run, because that's really where the epicenter of DJing and mixtapes and everything else like that is.
Right.
So literally with no money, by that time, I had a homie who was a club promoter, and he was like, you can sleep on my couch if you come out here, and you can spin in my club. So I'm like, fuck it, just packed up my shit, moved to New York, slept on his couch. That's when I lived in Flatbush.
The Gaza.
Church in East 18.
Oh
Church
my
in East
God.
East 18.
Wow.
Yeah, Church in East 18.
Wow.
You near
I got
Temptations. He's near Temptations, B.
Yeah, fact.
Woo!
Look,
Brooklyn ahead.
Woo! That's not a place.
Church in 28th, I have a story that's Vlad TV worthy.
Yeah.
Guaranteed to get me
Two
locked
First,
up
Ocean
after.
Ave.
Guaranteed to get me locked up after I tell this story. But yeah, that's the area.
That's the area.
Yeah.
Gaza.
Yeah.
Not too far from damn, what's the name of the movie theater?
Ken
Moore. Is it
Moore's.
Ken Moore?
And the other one that was on Church, and it's a sneaker store now. They always used to shoot it up every Saturday.
Yeah, and you could sneak in through the building.
Through the building.
Around the corner.
Yes.
And you climb down, and you go through the door. Yeah, it was a
That was
lot.
like
It
the
was a
first
lot.
movie
Yeah.
theater you could smoke weed in regularly.
Yeah. Facts. So you over there?
I'm over there, man, and I'm just like, all right, I got a backpack full of CDs and a dream, and I'm gonna try to figure it out. Not knowing hardly anybody, not having any money in my pocket, leaving CDs on consignment, coming back, you know, like with the Africans, you know, on Canal Street and everything.
Did you drop off the Madu?
Yeah.
I'm a dude.
Yeah,
Amadu's
yeah.
corner. Yeah.
You know, I remember, you know, shout out to Justo, rest in peace. He was the one that really took me around and showed me all the spots and
Rest in
everything
peace,
else
Justo.
like that.
R.
Yeah, rest in peace, Justo.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, you know, I'm DJing some club shit, and I'm dropping off CDs and everything else like that, and but the money is dwindling, and you know, the dudes I'm staying with, like, yo, when you gonna get off our couch, like, you know, and I remember I took a job at a strip club in Brooklyn, which sounded like a good idea at the time, right?
What club? What club was it?
Now, it was like this dying strip club. It wasn't one of the poppin' strip clubs. It was just
Right.
this barely in business
What was it, like
depressing
Third
ass-
Avenue?
Something like, no, like Coney Island Boulevard, and like,
By the Asian
yeah.
parlors and the right. Yeah. You stayed around the
and
Russians
I
still.
remember like, yo, I think I was like 30 at the time, and I just remember thinking like, what did I do wrong in my life? How did I fucking end up here, calling bubbles to the stage, not making any money, just feeling like I'm wasting my fucking life, like just like broke, you know what I mean? Just like, yo, like what the fuck did I do to end up here?
Right.
Like just really like a deep depression.
Right.
And at that club, I had a friend who was gonna kill me, you know, at the time, who knew DJ Dirty Harry, who I really looked up to with his blends and everything. Because I was doing mixtapes that, you know, some people were checking for, not really. But me and Dirty Harry linked up, and I came up with this idea, like, yo, let's do this Biggie, let's take a bunch of Biggie acapellas and remix them and put it out, and we'll call it Rap Phenomenon. And that mixtape, the Biggie Rap Phenomenon, was the first one to actually, I guess, go viral by today's standards.
That was a
I
real.
remember that.
Yeah, the Biggie Rap Phenomenon.
Rap Phenomenon.
Yeah, that was a dope
I
tape.
remember that was a big
tape.
fucking mix.
Yeah, I remember MTV did a thing on it, and I remember I was like at this girl that I was dating, and I remember just like going, oh, I'm on MTV, like this is so crazy, like
Pop champagne.
Russian kid, like, you know, immigrant kid out of the Bay is on MTV with
In New York
mixtape
City.
in New York City.
Wow.
You know, and then after that we did a part 2, which was a Tupac
The
mixtape.
Tupac one.
With
Tupac.
yeah,
I remember
Green,
that.
Green
I remember
Lantern,
that,
who was Eminem's DJ at the time.
Right.
He joined us. Like I remember, I cornered him at Universal. I was like convinced him to do it with us. Like,
What did it take to convince them? Because some people are so casual, they'll send a DM and think they put work in.
yeah.
What did it take to
No, like I remember when me and Harry, because this mixtape was like big.
Right.
I mean, for us, it was like our biggest project ever.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to Harry. I'm like, yo, we should do a part 2. We should do a Tupac. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yo, let's get the hottest DJ out right now. It's like Green Lantern. He's like, oh yeah, but I don't know him. Whatever else. And I think it was as a Dipset listening party in like Universal. And I remember I ran into Green Lantern, and I just cornered him. Like I literally was like, yo, you gotta do this. And he knew about the Tupac. I was like, yo, I need you to do this with us. Like, yo, this is gonna be big. It's gonna be a Tupac one. And he was like, okay, yeah, I think, okay, this kind of sounds like a good idea. And then, so next thing you know, we're all 3 of us are working on it. You know what I mean? And that mixtape came out, and that got even bigger. It got like a mixtape of the year at Justos.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Y'all was in the studio together put in that? Or
Yeah. Well, we did it individually in our own studios, but then we went to I think we went to Cutting Room in Manhattan, and we spent like 3 days in the studio just assembling
Stitching it
it.
together.
Yeah, stitching it all together, sleeping on couches, taking turns. They came out.
Where are these mixtapes now?
Oh, they're online somewhere. They're on eBay.
Say
You know what I mean?
eBay.
Yeah.
Would you
Yeah.
NFT these joints?
I mean, I don't really own the.
Oh, you're
I don't
right,
really
you're right.
own that content. It's all
Right, yeah.
basically bootleg. Like, you know what I mean? But like, you know, the dope thing about the part 2 was like we all pulled in our relationships to bring in other rappers to like do features on that mixtape. So like Alicia Keys is on it, Busta Rhymes is on it, Bun B is on it, Bounty Killer is on it. Jadakiss is on it. Like, you know, Exhibit I think is on it. You know,
That's
and
dope.
it was like this really pure, you know what I mean? Like it was like outside of the industry rules, we put this together as just a project. You know, Wyclef is on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like a project of just like of love for this artist that we all respected. And it got big, and it was like, all right, like at this point, my name is a little bit out there. I'm getting shows overseas, and I'm touring, and I started like a mixtape business where I'm shipping to mom and pops and everything else, and I'm able to actually support myself through this shit at long last. I'm not struggling.
It felt like success.
Felt like a certain degree of success.
Right.
You know, not real success, because you're still kind of like on a treadmill,
Right.
you know, money-wise, but it felt like I'm getting some fans, some love, and I'm actually supporting
Recognition.
myself. Yeah, I'm supporting myself through this shit. And the whole time I never had a job. Like I was always like, I know that if I took a job, it would take me out of the race because I'm competing with people who are doing it full time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like I'm just trying to stick to, like this is all I'm doing morning till night, and I'm just putting all my focus into it.
From there, you went to the DVDs.
So CDs were going away,
Right.
right? And with the CDs going away, the mom and pop shops were going away. It wasn't like Virgin Megastore was carrying my shit. You know, it was still bootleg product, essentially.
Right.
So, you know, the mixtapes were going away. I was actually partners in one of the big mixtape sites. I'm not gonna say which one. But like, I felt like it was a liability more than anything else. You know what I mean? Because the bigger it was getting, well, because it's all illegal. Right, it's all copyright infringement. And I remember the day DJ Drama got busted by the feds, and I'm watching this video of them like towing away his BMW and seizing his bank accounts. I'm like, I'm done. That's it.
Mind of this.
That's my wake-up call right here. I'm like, this right here, because I'm having to push shit other people's names. I'm worried about the feds kicking down my door. Like, you know what I mean? It's not a cool way to live. I mean, I'm not selling drugs or anything or robbing people, but still, it's still copyright infringement. It's still a federal offense.
How was that mixtape money? Because I've heard from DJs, it was like some great money laundering times.
It wasn't great, man. It was okay.
Not for you. I've heard from others like they were making like 40,000 a week. That's an exaggeration.
Nah. I mean, maybe a Who Kid was Clue, or maybe, you know, K-Slay was real hot during that time, and, you know, maybe they were doing certain deals and so forth. I mean, Clue, I think, got money when in the heyday, when you were getting $15, $20 for your mixtapes. By the time I was in it, it was like $5, $6, $7. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't the same.
The bootleggers
it was in decline.
It was a lot of street money. And the
I mean, we got bootlegged a lot. I mean, I'm sure a lot of money was generated off that shit, but in terms of money I was getting,
Right.
I was
masters, Vlad?
here and there. You know, I think
Wouldn't have
when
mattered
we did,
back then. Nobody would have bought it.
Yeah, I mean, me and Rock Raider, we did the Rock Phenomenon. It was like a rock mashup tape. Rest in peace, Rock Raider, man. One of my favorite people. He killed me when he died, man. But we did that, and we sold some masters like overseas and shit. But it was just, you're just hustling. You're hustling to your next check, and you know, it's rough because every month you're getting less and less for the mixtapes. So you're having to increase your output to just do what you did the month before, and it's just like you're on a hamster wheel. Yeah. So around that time, I think my man Hip Hop, you know, who's Big's brother, you know, from Rockefeller, he introduced me to QD3, Quincy Jones' son, who was doing the Beef DVDs at the time. And I remember I was just hanging out with him in the studio, and he was just telling me how it all, like, how he puts the shit together, how documentaries work, and I'm like, I can do that. That don't sound too different from making mixtapes. It's just video as opposed to audio. Like, I think at the time I was hanging out with Games people. Yeah. Dude, New Jersey Devil, who was real close to Game.
Oh, shout out to New Jersey Devil. Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, let's do because he's like, yo, let's do a mixtape together. And I'm like, and he's like, well, we'll get Game involved. And I'm like, we should do a mixtape and a DVD. And he's like, oh, that's a great idea. So it's called The Devil's Advocate. It's just me with a video camera hanging out with Game, like while he's doing his New York runs and his LA runs. Right. And that was my first DVD project. And I'm like, all right, like this seems to be the next shit. And that's when I launched, you know, my DVD series and everything else like that. But then you're running into the same problem once again because DVDs are going away. You know what I mean? So I'm like, here we are again in the same fucked up situation where I'm having to make more DVDs to make what I made last month. The DVD money's a little bit better, but not much better. And once again, the shit, I'm owning it, but I'm still putting some music in it that I don't really own, and it's not like these are commercial projects and so forth. And right around that time, I had there was the idea to do my first documentary, which was Ghost Ride the Whip, which is a documentary about the hyphy movement. We got a deal to do that, and at the same time, YouTube was launching its partner program, and one of the dudes at YouTube was a fan of my mixtapes, who was one of the guys in charge of that program. Right. So I was able to get into that super early. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so all this footage.
What's super early? What year?
2008.
Oh,
2008. 2008.
What? Because I remember there was a time when in 2007, Soulja Boy was like, he's getting 25 cents a click.
Yeah, no, Soulja Boy probably had a YouTube channel before me.
Yeah, so like, was your partnership deal, since you got it so early, was your CPM higher?
No, CPM there was trash back then. I mean, like, but you were lucky to get anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the whole thing of it was like, I'm working on this documentary, and I'm launching the YouTube channel at the same time. But what I saw the vision of YouTube already, because what I kind of skipped over, you know, when I said I went to college, I was a computer science major at UC Berkeley, so I had a good understanding of how computers work and how the internet works.
Right.
You know, I had worked for I'd worked for like Intel and stuff like that while I was still in school. So I had a good technical understanding of everything. And when I saw YouTube, I saw the big picture of it like that. It was like, oh, okay, so you upload these videos, you can get paid off your YouTube channel, but then when other people embed your videos on their platform, you get paid off of that too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the light bulb went off. I'm like, this is it. This is going to be the biggest video platform on earth. And I need to drop everything I'm doing to just focus on that. So I finished the documentary. I stopped DJing, I stopped doing mixtapes, I stopped doing DVDs, I stopped hosting mixtapes, I started, you know, touring, whatever, and I just put all my effort into it. I remember the movie dude that I was working with at the time, I'm not gonna say his name, but he was like, I remember I showed him this shit, and he was like, this is a waste of time. Like, ain't no money in this shit. Like, you need to start working. You need to be moving, you need to work for the movie companies, do your movies, that's how you get your money. And that was one of those things where I'm like, nah, I'm gonna stick with this. And like, when you see our trajectories, you know what I mean?
Right.
Me and this movie dude, it's like, you know, there's no situation, because I'd done 2 documentaries, and I never got a single penny in terms of residuals off any of them. Whereas, you know, Vlad TV, I didn't have any partners, I didn't have any investors. I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna own this flat out myself. And I'll hire people over time, and you know, that's when you realize the strength of an asset business. You know what I mean? When you have an asset business, whether it's videos, whether it's music, whether it's property, whether it's stocks, whether it's crypto, whether it's virtual property, the metaverse, whatever you have that's a valuable asset that remains valuable, you know, year after year, that's when the real wealth gets built. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's when it all just sort of like my life just started to shift. You know, and then, you know, you fast forward 14 years later, Vlad TV is, you know, where it is.
Number 1.
It's Hoffa. Trapper turn smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rappers. Got bars, I can hang with the backpackers. Trap star, I don't hang with the backpackers. I'm in the hood with the work, you heard. Making fiends leave earth, you heard. Got your baby mama thirst, you heard. Feel the flow, nigga, throw it in reverse. This the wave you need to surf, you heard.